Alright, so we've got our database roles table and our user underscore roles table in place. We have our application underscore authenticate request built so that we can pull our roles from our database and load them into our user object under the HTTP context. So let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. Alright, so we start off by hitting a null reference exception. So let's kind of debug through this together and figure out how to identify what the issue is. So what's happening here is we have our line that's getting the error. So if we mouse over these variables, we can see where our null is. Now typically when you get a null reference exception, that means that you're trying to access a property off of an object that is null. So this line of code, the way that it executes is it executes this side of the code first, and then whatever gets returned gets stored in username. So let's start with context. So if we mouse over the context variable, it pops up, and we can see here that there is a whole selection of different properties that are available to us from the context. So that context has a value in it. There's no question there. So let's go ahead and look at the user property off the context. And we'll see here that the context user is null. Now, because that's null, if we try to grab the identity off of the null or empty user object or user property, we get that null reference exception. So that means that our user is null, and the reason why it is null is because we have not logged in yet, so there is no user for us to get. So what we need to do is stop our code, and then we're going to add an if statement here and say if context.user equals null. Then we're just simply going to return, which is exit out of this no user set. So that'll get us out of here without having to worry about handling this null user. So let's give it another shot. Alright, so let's go ahead and log in now. And we'll click login. Alright, and we actually have made it further. So we hit another reference or another exception, which is an entity command execution exception. So let's take a look here and see what happens. So it says an error has occurred while executing command C inner exception for details. So to view the inner exception, we're going to click view details. That'll pop up the exception details dialog. We can then twirl open this exception object, and we'll see here that there's an inner exception, and it says invalid object name dbo.tbl user underscore role. So that would mean that my user underscore role table either does not exist or I have the wrong name assigned to my model. So let's go ahead and jump back into my Server Explorer. And let's take a look at my table. In fact, it's called TBL user underscore roles. It's pluralized. And I also have TBL roles pluralized as well. So let's jump into our role and our user role models. And sure enough, we've got them typed wrong. So user roles, save that and close. And then in my role, I have TBL role instead of TBL roles. So I'll put an S on the end of that and save that as well. Alright, so let's try this one more time. Alright, and we are now in the application. We are logged in, so I should be able to click here and pull up my profile. Alright, great. So we've got all of those pieces now in place. So let's go ahead and make it so that we cannot access our admin, manage users, which I should be able to access now because I'm logged in. Let's restrict this so that only administrators can access it. So to do that, we're going to jump back into our code, stop, and then if you remember from last week, we set up an area for the admin. So under controllers is manage user controller. And we now actually already have this authorize attribute set up here. So authorize role equals admin. So I have to be of an admin role in order to access this area. So I was able to do it because my user is an admin. So let's actually try logging in as a different user and see what happens. So we'll go ahead and we've got this open up here. So let's start by logging out, and then I'm going to log in as a different user. So let me find a user to log in as. Why don't we go ahead and log in as Steve Jobs. Alright, so we're logged in as Steve. So now if we go /admin/user managers, we actually get kicked back to the login page. So you'll see that I'm still logged in as Steve, but because I'm not an admin, I'm getting prompted to log in because my user, Steve Jobs, does not have access to my admin area. So I've actually set up restrictions that only admin users are allowed to access that area. So again, I'll try it one more time, and I still get kicked out. But now if I come back and I put in my credentials, which have admin rights, and I click login, I get kicked back to the login or to the home page, but I can access manage users. So now logged in as myself, I can access manage users. So I've successfully set up roles-based authentication within my application.